There are no guarantees that the birth chart that you get is going to land you into the family that meets your needs. Everyone has a different chart in that family. They're all on different paths, and sometimes we learn more through the struggles than we do the successes. That said, every chart has a path that is lit by the sun, and the universe wants to help you achieve that path. So maybe there's a reason why these people are in your life. For me, I have had a struggling relationship with my mom. As I hope this video, exploring the relationship with my mother, is going to help the 2 or 3 people who are brought to view this video in understanding their own relationship with their parents or siblings or aunts or uncles, family, lovers, partners, whatever, to understand what's going on and how the chart affects it. Now, we're just going to look at 3 planets today. I'm just going to look at the sun, the moon, and Mercury. The backstory of all of this is this move that we made. So we've talked about Pluto being in Aquarius, right? Pluto is the corporation or the cult. It wants truth. It wants a corporation that you go to willingly in fair exchange for what you bring and what it offers. That's kind of the idea of a corporation. Not necessarily the corporations of today. Sidebar. Okay. The other thing that Pluto can mean is the cult. Now, I present these signs and boundaries because there's a lot of interpretation that you can have, but those boundaries help you get the gist of what the sign is about. So Aquarius in the form of a cult is that you are following others, not because they are your beliefs, but because you are being manipulated. So you haven't really found your truth. But Aquarius is all about finding truth. It's about finding the truth in your purpose in life, the truth of who your friends really are, accepting the range of truth, because everyone has different truths, right? I'll go back to Donald Trump and Jack Smith. Both have a Gemini sun. Both are exploring law in a very different way. They are both seeking truth in a very different way. So this transiting Pluto is opposing my sun. There are many changes happening in my chart, and this move was a part of it. So when you get an opposition in your chart, like my sun in my birth chart is there sitting at 9 degrees Leo all the time. But when transiting Pluto comes around, it wants to have a conversation with my sun. And in an opposition, it's a competition for who's going to win. But in a more beautiful way, divine way maybe, Pluto is an invitation for me to look at my truths. And that's what I really want to talk about today, is the truth that I've been exploring in the relationship with my mom. We had talked about moving for many years from Nashville, and we had decided to stay there because we didn't want to uproot my mom. But in 2024, we said, we can't do it anymore. We have to be true to ourselves. We can no longer be who we are in this space and the obstacles that it is presenting to the purpose and mission in our life. And I say our, it's my husband and me, and both my daughters were on board with this too. They too wanted to leave Nashville. But for my mom is an Aquarius sun. Her sun is at 3 degrees. Pluto started going into Aquarius in March of 2023, went back and forth until about 2024 when it went into Aquarius permanently and is going to stay there until 2044. So transiting Pluto moves very slowly. Remember, it's the plumber in your chart, and it wants to dig things up that are toxic. It wants to remove those things because it's getting in the way of you doing your path. So Pluto is directly on my mom's sun. She's not getting an invitation like I am in an opposition for Pluto to show me through external events the things I need to remove from my basement that are toxic. No, she's having Pluto right on her sun. It's challenging who she is and how she's lived her life. And that's a lot to do. You may never experience Pluto on the sun. Most people won't, because Pluto is such a slow mover. It takes 248 years to go around a birth chart and to get back home. Now, in America's chart, 1776, the birth of America, and the birth of our marriage, 1787, that's our Constitution. Well, Pluto in Aquarius is doing some things there. that you can go back and look at a video that I did called Can This Marriage Be Saved? So here we are in March of 2025, and we've decided to move. It's upsetting to everyone because it's this big change. But for my mom and me, this is the start of unfolding a deeper story. There are so many things that we will dance around in life in relationships with others, especially as parents and as children, because parents are the authority. So you dance around a lot of things, right? But there are big chasms there that you're dancing around. And in this move, we were about to face those chasms and some very uncomfortable truths about our relationship and the tenseness of it and why it was just so difficult. In the birth chart, the sun is the path that you are to travel. So my mom's sun is in Aquarius. Aquarius, as we've talked about, is the idea of finding truth. It's the boundaries between, is it a corporation where I am of equal, we are sharing truths, I understand the subtleties of truth, the differences of truth, or is it a cult? Am I belonging to something that isn't true to me just because it's easier, because I'm more popular that way? Because I make more money that way, a variety of reasons. My sun is in Leo. What I am being asked to do in this lifetime is to develop self-confidence, the range of Leo, self-confidence or self-centered. My mom's sun is in her 9th house. It has to do with what your personal philosophies are, what your ideologies are. It has to do with religion as well, and law, and education, and travel. So it's an exploring kind of house. Well, that's where my mom's sun is. So she has the invitation to develop her own philosophies in life. It's a fixed sign, Aquarius, so it's fixed air. It's air in a box. You have to open the windows. That's what the invitation is in the 9th house, for her to open the windows, right? My particular sun is in the 12th house. The idea of a sun in the 12th house is to know the inner world, and it is also related to a psychic nature because you're learning all of the hidden signs in this world. So you can see the difference right there, right? So her sun in an air sign in a fire house and mine in a fire sign but in a water house, it's a totally different dynamic. Our suns are in opposition. Leo is in opposition to Aquarius. Now, Aquarius can be kind of lofty, especially in the 9th house. It wants to prove its knowledge. It wants to prove its superiority. It wants to prove it knows the laws, because that's how the sun learns, that the sun doesn't know a whole lot about the laws, that it has things to learn. I mean, you have to have a lot of opposition to your sun to get it to grow, to get it to light the way. There's a power struggle already inherent in the birth chart of this little girl, once me, and my mom, who was 27 at the time that she gave birth to me. What this looked like as a child was she felt superior. Children were not to be, seen or heard. They were to follow instructions. She wasn't brutal about it, but she attended when she needed to, but then she was pretty much off on her own. Air signs just don't tend to, stick around for a lot. And we're going to talk more. She has a lot more stuff in air signs. So it really exacerbated that idea of no attachments. Air doesn't necessarily attach itself to anything. So in growing up, my mom, doing her Aquarius sun, probably thought she was being helpful when she criticized me for how I looked, what I wore, not wearing the right things to fit in at school. Now, she has some trauma there. She only made it to the 8th grade, and in her family, she was one of 13 children, and she felt alienated by society. They were the family that couldn't keep things together in their small little town. So she had some sensitivities there. But as an adult, we have to work through our stuff, right? We're not here to, just make excuses for ourselves and then do the same thing to our own kids. The idea is growth, that through our chart, we are given that opportunity to grow and to be different people, to be our own person. So for a Leo sun who is developing self-confidence, to receive that kind of feedback of you don't look right, you don't dress right, you don't think right, you don't behave right, and you're not dressing like the other girls, and you're creating these problems, that's why you're getting bullied. That's hard to hear, right? A Leo sun, if you have a Leo kid, for the one or two of you who might watch this, they need a lot of support. They need cheerleaders. Now, sometimes they're going to go out of the bounds and go to that place of being self-centered, but you can help them in a gentle way. Leos don't need a club over the head to get them to listen, most times, oftentimes. So over the time, and this is very 12th house behavior, I just came more into myself. And in an optimistic way of looking at this, I was developing self-confidence in myself because I was no longer soliciting her feedback. Now, oftentimes her feedback wasn't asked for, but my mom is uno out there with her feedback because her Mercury and her Moon and her Sun are all in Aquarius. She has these two drivers, the Moon and the Mercury, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the Moon and Mercury, about really sharing her opinion, that her opinion has value. And what she is learning in life is that she needs to think about her opinions a little bit more. Opinions are not your philosophy. As I got older, though, my Moon in Virgo, wanted to fix this relationship. I wanted a close relationship with my mom, and I would try to change myself to do that. But more and more, I just pulled away. But when I got pregnant with my first child, I thought, what a beautiful opportunity to kind of, give her the grandchild that she's always wanted. So I asked her to move up, and we were living in where were we living in the time? Jacksonville. I asked her to move down there with us from Atlanta, where she was living, and she did. And so when we decided to leave Florida and move up to Nashville, she stayed down there. But then I got pregnant with my second daughter and said, would you like to move up here and be close? And she thought she could help out. Now, there was a warning sign in my head that went off that I ignored because I wanted to fix things. Virgo loves to fix things. Virgo is this idea of self-mastery, of really discerning what is you and what isn't, what feedback makes sense and what feedback doesn't. It's discerning, which is why you need your Virgo friends, especially in a time of crisis. But on the shadow side, Virgo can be selfless. And I have been towing that line a lot in my life. This is not a victim story. It's a story about a lot of growth. So I invited my mom up to Nashville with us, and we bought this house for her that she lived in for 25 years. And over time, what I saw is in Jacksonville, she would do things like I would ask not to feed sugar to the kids or watch TV, my one child in, to my daughter, not to feed sugar and not do other certain things, watching TV and stuff. She would do that anyway. So it challenged my authority as a parent. So when we first moved up to Nashville, it was kind of nice, right? I was back in this relationship with my then 3-year-old daughter, and I really reveled in being a parent. A lot of Leos do, whether you're a parent to humans or children, humans or animals, whatever. They adore that. Leos tend to really adore learning from others and watching the creative process unfold. And I love that about my children. And I didn't want to force my ideas on them. I wanted to be a guide, but I didn't want to force my opinions. I wanted to hear what they had to say because honestly, kids have more to teach us than we do to them. And she was still working for this company, retail company that she was working for, but she had this idea that she wanted to help, that I needed help. Well, I didn't need help. I was a full-time mom. I was totally enjoying it. So when my second daughter came around, it was clear there was going to be some tension, and I would try to have her babysit, but the kids didn't really want her to babysit, and I got that clue early on. And with my youngest daughter, there were some events that were pretty traumatic for her with my mom that she remembers to this day and that formulate a lot of her opinions. And she, I'll just get to the point. We just stopped having my mom over as much. And the beautiful thing that happened at this time was there was a family that lived right down the street from her who had a child. And this woman was putting her husband through medical school. And she attached herself to that family and taking care of that child. Now, my mom's good with kids until they're up about age 4 to 6 when they start having their own opinions. And then she starts enforcing hers. And this is all for the sake of my mom learning. But you can see the rub in our charts, right? One son versus another, 2 totally different missions. It was really a difficult relationship, full of tense moments. My mom would have very frustrated conversations with me about why I didn't let her around the kids, and I would tell her the truth, and then she would deny it and be the victim, and I would play into that, and I would say, we'll try again. I mean, it was just this toxic kind of relationship. These are some of the problems we were having, and it all fed into Nashville. When my youngest started getting into horses, and she was an equestrian for many years, I would invite my mom to watch. But my mom really wasn't interested in my daughter. She was interested in other things, and I would invite her to school plays and stuff like that. But it really wasn't about connecting with my children. And if you were to ask my adult children how they felt about my mom, it's like she has no interest in us. She just asks these surface questions and then goes on. Well, that's air. The moon in the chart of the person that you are a partner with, in family or whatever, also plays a critical role. So here we have my mom, the corporation or the cult, a moon in Aquarius, and we have Melissa, me, with a moon in Virgo. These two are in conjunct. It's like a teeter-totter, and it's like life just goes along its way, and all this debris keeps coming on this teeter-totter, and you can never find the balance. Virgo, again, is about self-mastery or being selfless, not in a good way. You want to have the self as a vessel, all of its experiences, its emotions, its feelings, its conclusions, its ideologies, You want to have all of that there to be able to operate wholly in this world and to do your chart. So these two were incompatible, these two moons, and we could never find that emotional harmony. And here you have a Virgo moon that is kicking itself in the foot, trying to find peace with this person. It's Earth. A Virgo moon wants peace. It wants acceptance. It wants solidity. I was her psychologist. Virgos are great psychologists. Because of astrology, and she poo-poos astrology, which really hurts, right? And she'll say this in front of other people. You don't believe that hocus pocus, do you? And it totally dismisses all the knowledge that I've created. But my mom has a lot of depression kind of things in her chart, some heavy water stuff. And I would help her with that, not telling her that I'm looking at her chart and stuff like that. And I would try to help her through this stuff. But fixed air, she would open that window a little bit and then she'd close it right back up. And 2 days later, she'd be on a different thing. And she wouldn't necessarily take those insights that we could find together and use them. She would just go back to her old way of thinking. So this was a problem. So here's this moon, continually doing this giving itself away thing. And I'm not supposed to do that. And it's not like this great thing that you do in giving yourself away. There's no goodness about this stuff. It's like just doing stupid things. And I've already talked about some of my rules. It was my rules kicking me in the butt, trying to tell me to go a different way. So over time, I'm pulling back, right? And God, and I'm trying to share at the same time, to keep the relationship going, I'm trying to share parts of myself. And I'm writing this novel series. And I'm at the beginning of writing the novel series. And I'm super excited about what I've written. And I share it with my mom. Wrong choice. It was a pivotal moment in my life, like the ones that are happening during this move in March, April, and May of last year, which I'll talk about, where I just said, I'll never share with her again. I will never expose myself to her again. But in the move, this moon issue comes up because there's this dog, Dawson, that this family that she has attached herself to. And I don't know if I finished that story, but she started traveling with this family. This family ended up actually going through a divorce. She was involved in the divorce, and she's involved in this child's life throughout the divorce, and the husband has a special attachment to this man. That's her life, right? I'm out of it at this point. It's like she's living in the house. She's fine with that family. She's doing her chart. This new partner in this man's life has this dog, Dawson. This dog marks, and it marks in their house, and they don't like it. So they let my mom take this dog because she likes this dog. And so it comes over to my mom's house, and it's marking on stuff. It marks on the sofa, it marks on the carpet, but she doesn't think the dog is marking. So this dog becomes this bone of contention, no pun intended, in this move, because we are not taking this dog with us when she moves up here. That dog is staying at its family's house. She's upset that she can't take Dawson. She's upset that as we are updating her house, both in the long term for it to sell, and two, for my daughter to live there, it needed a paint job. It was fine for her decor. She loved it. But for a younger generation, it needed a paint job and a few more things. So we're over there doing that work, and she wants to keep the dog there, while my daughter is intending to come over with her 2 cats. Now, we can't have this new furniture that my daughter is bringing over marked on by this dog, but she's adamant that the dog isn't marking on the furniture, on the carpets, and on the other things. This is a good time to jump into the planet Mercury. Mercury is how you make sense of things. Mercury is there to help you be creative in how you pick things up as well. And then what you do with the information, how you make sense of it. My mom's Mercury is in Aquarius. It's fixed air. It is here in a fixed air sign to develop those philosophies and those beliefs. But we learn more from our challenges than we do from our victories. So my mom has this very fixed idea she is not getting rid of Dawson, and that my youngest daughter should be obedient to my mother because my mother is older and wiser, an Aquarius sun. And so the listening skills aren't really always tuned up in a Mercury in Aquarius because it's fixed. Now, you have brilliant thinkers with Mercury and Aquarius who have other placements in their sign. But my mom's chart is focused on a couple of different things. It's focused on that 9th house theme, building her own philosophies. Now, my mom has some trauma in growing up about her education. And I want to give some space to that here. Again, she went to school through the 8th grade. She had dreams of becoming a nurse, but she married my dad very young because he was going to university, college. And I think she saw hope in that. And that she could find her connection. She could find better friends than what she grew up with. That she could find a better career, a better life than what she grew up with. But I think one of the key things that she's probably thinking about now is letting go of that dream of becoming a nurse because of the excuse that she had in her mind if I only graduated from the 8th grade and then she had to go out to work. She could have become a nurse. She could have done other things, and she did have other jobs, and I'm sure she did well at them. Now, my Mercury is in Leo, so I am here to listen with all the senses. Leo is a fixed sign. It's fixed fire. It's in a water house in my chart, and so it's listening to things that can't be seen. It's putting puzzles together, not just puzzles like, on a puzzle board, but it's piecing together how life works, all the hidden clues, all the innuendos. It's putting all that together to form a bigger picture. Pisces is about forming the bigger picture. So this Dawson issue, I'm trying to reason with her why Dawson can't come up, but none of it was working. I'm getting pretty frustrated. So at this time, I'm back at our house, which is just like a few miles away, right? And I am trying to do the videos, and it takes a lot. And I'm doing this longer series that I never put out about astrology, and it was way too long, and I had to cut it down. And so I'm trying to do that, and I'm doing the Can This Marriage Be Saved video, which I did get out. And I am, we're closing on the house, so now I'm packing a whole lot more and purging a whole lot more. I'm looking at homes up here on the phone daily with the real estate agents. I am cooking, and I am running a whole bunch of errands, and I am, just doing all this stuff. And it's agreed I have the most energy in our family. So no one was questioning this. But inside my head, I'm doing that Virgo moon thing, right? I am like being selfless. I'm not spending the time on the stuff that's important to me. But my mom cannot let go of this Dawson thing, and it's creating a lot of tension. So when we're going over to the house to hang shelves, to finish painting, doing all this stuff, there's a lot of tension in the house. And I'm not sharing a whole lot with my mom because, frankly, I'm like done. I'm like, the dog's not going, and this is what it is. But she's like, well, why do we have to move? Why are you moving now? Why can't you just make do? This is not right what you're doing. And yet at the same time, she wanted to be supportive. But there are so many things that she says. Sometimes she's just insensitive. And she would ask me, well, what are you doing over there anyway? You don't have a career. Well, that's because I quit talking to her about what I do. I don't tell her about YouTube. I don't tell her about what I'm doing with the novel series. I don't tell her other things I'm doing because I don't want her opinion. I'm here to develop my self-confidence. She's a hindrance on that path. That may be the same thing that you have with other people in your life. Now, in some relationships, like with a mother, you work it out. You have to. It starts young. You realize how reliant you are on them. And I realize the things that I have been taught, not through the successes with my mom, but through the challenges and just the struggles in getting along. Her, my brothers, even my dad, before they got divorced, my brothers had a very distant relationship. And when my oldest brother died at 47, it was not a great relationship between my mother and himself, or my father for that matter. It was just a family of different souls on different paths, and we were trying to make it work. And it didn't, not with any ease. So if you have that in your life, it's not necessarily anything wrong with you. Give yourself some grace, but at the same time, give them grace as well. Now, there are some horrific stories out there about child abuse. I'm not qualified to talk about that. From the outside, my childhood was fine, but it was a struggle to be me. And we all face these struggles, and this is not a pity party. This is just saying, okay, life is difficult, and then you die, right? We go through this stuff and we learn. But this move, this Plutonian event in our life was shaking up our charts even more. And the things that we danced around in life, well, those chasms were getting bigger, and we were about to fall into them. Some really uncomfortable truths had to be faced by all of us. There are some relationships we just need to say, okay, it's over, it's done. Harder to do that with your parents, and I honor you if you've had to make that very difficult journey. Thank you if anyone made it through this. I really appreciate it. It's good feedback to know that someone would make it through this video. If not, to my children, this is where I was as of January 2026 in my life's journey, and I love you both, and if I'm not here, you know I'm missing you. Thanks for joining me.